Hello everybody, this is Havoc and welcome back to Prehistoric Kingdom. It's been a little bit and I'll explain just a second what that means and kind of the cadence going forward for this series. But first and foremost, as always, I just want to thank you for showing up today and hanging out with me as we continue to build and expand our park. If you want to continue showing your support, you can do so by giving the video a like, simply subscribing to the channel, and even leaving a comment in the comments section down below. Now, in the last episode, we expanded our park just a wee bit over here with our incredible Dilophosaurus. You're hungry, and okay, you've got stuff right there, buddy. Like, yeah, you've got stuff right there. Ooh, this is an interesting little update. All right, but anyways, hey, I'm sure they'll figure themselves out. I think if I just need to move them, typically that will help. They sometimes get stuck. Anyways, sorry, got distracted. So we built our Dilophosaurus. And in fact, it actually got the park all the way up to a single star. So we are at a 1 star overall, which isn't too bad whatsoever. Now, the only real negative at the moment is that we are losing money. I mentioned this before, we have not had a profitable month yet, and I don't think we're going to see a profitable month for a little bit until we get at least a few more dinosaurs in. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. We don't have much bringing people in. And so what I want to make sure of is that whatever we do going forward, that we are going to try and be as profitable as possible, because that's slightly a requirement. But all's well and good in the neighborhood. We do have access to a couple more dinosaurs. We have the Edmontosaurus. We have the Lambiosaurus. We have our Pachyrhinosaurus as well. And I think that's actually it from the recent excavations over here in the Horseshoe Canyon Formation. Now, what we could do is we could simply get more if we wanted to, but look at that, 41 grand for every 5 minutes. That's a lot. We already have the Lambiosaurus, and we can't afford Styracosaurus or Parasaurolophus, despite it being my favorite creature. Well, that and the Pachycephalosaurus. So we do have access to some great dinosaurs, and they're all part of the Cretaceous as well, which has led me to the reason and the idea for today's episode. We are going to build out our Cretaceous entrance over here, and I have some good ideas for that. But I also really want to make sure that we have a good thing going on here. Now, as mentioned, I wanted to role play a little bit, and this is where, like, I feel like some challenge mode things, maybe the series isn't necessarily the best for a challenge mode, but rather a sandbox, but we'll see if we can't make it work. But long story short, if we were to go to park management, we can see that, well, this is still a little bit of an eyesore, which is understandable. It's meant to be. In-game mechanics, I'm not going to diss the in-game mechanics whatsoever, but again, like, it would be cool to be able to toggle what buildings actually affect that, because again, the role-playing aspect, solely for my playthrough, that is it. But we may kind of trick this area out. So for one, I really don't like anyone seeing anything over here in park services in general, and we've talked about this, that we want to maybe section that off and kind of do something with it. But that also means, like, people being able to even see, I mean, even just this stuff right here. I love them to see this stuff, and that's what we want them to. But we don't necessarily want them to see behind it. So my hope is that maybe we can build out a block off over here, and we can figure out what to do and see if that improves the area, because this will affect attraction. I don't think people are coming over here because it's unattractive. At least that's my hope, that that's how the mechanic works. So we're going to do a couple of bigger time lapses today. I hope you guys don't mind. Sometimes that's just the best way forward for me and how the park is operating until we start making more revenue. Which, speaking on that, we probably will need to take out another loan, or a loan, probably in the United Startup to Backer Limited. Probably would be one of those two. I'm going to say more of the Backer Limited, just because we'll end up needing to cough up a good chunk of change. It's all fine. Now, as for the cadence of this series, long story short, these are a little more creative intensive for me, and as a result, I don't think I can keep up with the cadence of 2 videos a week at the current time. So, going forward, unless I state otherwise, or until you mysteriously see a new video, this will be occurring once every week, I believe on Wednesdays. Tuesdays. And so, unfortunately, that's just kind of the way things are working out right now. I would love to dedicate more time to this, but just long story short, I just can't really dedicate as much as I want to. And so this is an effort for me not to get burnt out by trying to be pressured into 2 videos a week and instead focusing on 1. So what we're going to do going forward as well is that you can clearly see I now have the flashlight. A few of you brought that up. I yet forget that the flashlight exists. It's just not something I've ever done. I don't tend to create in the nighttime. So we're good there. We'll get rocking and rolling. But yeah, so we're going to need to be mindful of our finances as we go through. So during some of these time lapses or later in the episode, you're probably going to see me take out that loan. Thankfully, rocks are heckin' cheap overall. But yeah, so thank you guys for showing your support. I really do appreciate it. I know you don't have to. I know that there are other creators out there, and maybe there aren't, and that's why you're here. But regardless, I thank you so much for being here, and we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Now, we're going to start with this area over here because, well, I'm still kind of thinking in the back of my brain on how I want to approach the Cretaceous period in a way that makes sense. But Timelapse Havoc's gonna possibly come in. This is more of a creative build, free build, and so I don't really know what my thought process is going to be and how everything's going to work. But we'll see. Timelapse Havoc, if he comes in, he'll be here. All right, Timelapse Havoc here. Welcome. Thought I'd at least give a few comments on this section because, well, I do like to give you my thought process and what was going on behind it. So I know no one's complained about this yet, but I do feel like I do use the standard assets quite a bit. But I have to say, given the limited amount of time, and I'm sure I've explained this before, but like I don't have time to spend 4 hours on a build, 4 hours on an episode, basically. So using these pre-built assets is fantastic. And to be frank, I use them a lot, and then I go in and I modify them, as you're about to see here. I take pieces apart, I rearrange them, I do different things, and so I don't feel like it's that big of an issue, but I feel the need to address it for some reason. So anyways, I'm so incredibly thankful for pre-built assets because they allow me as a creator to have a base to work off of and then create my own personal space out of it. And that's super, super necessary for someone who has a wife and 3 kids where I only basically record in the morning. So these are a lifesaver and I love them to death. So thank you, developers. And I probably should start digging into the Steam Workshop to see what kind of creations the community has done to utilize for the park as well. But regardless, what we have here is we not only have some horizontal space we have to fill up, but we have the vertical space as well, because you can still see periodically, I'll get down into the human level and I'll show you, okay, well, I can still see the stuff in the background. And so we have to really work on 2 big levels without creating a wall that's so entirely massive that it's slightly unrealistic. We got to think that this has to still function as a park. I can't be taking massive amounts of space up. And so you're going to see me tweak things a whole bunch and try not to cause too much space to be taken up because, well, I just don't want to do that. Now, as for this part itself, this was a bit of a challenge, I'm not going to lie. It took a while to figure out exactly what makes things tick, and we're going to see the result of that when regular Havoc comes back into frame. But being able to figure out what exactly is the entertainment factor that is needed here is a huge part, because not only from a roleplay perspective do I not want people to see things, but also from a literal gameplay perspective of needing donations and things of that nature because of high beauty areas. We've got to figure that stuff out and utilize it for the future. So there's a lot of just a glow up kind of stuff going on here, a lot of decently fine details that are going to happen. I didn't feel too rushed doing this, thankfully. I do try to be mindful of your time as the community because I don't want you to have a 15-minute long time lapse where things are going a little slower. So I feel like I did that balance very, very well. And the end result that we have here really is a good one. And we're going to explore it even further going forward. So what you're going to see is the food area really get tricked out a lot. And then we're going to utilize the space over there in the entrance to create a really fun spot as well. So we're going to mess with food colorings. We're going to mess with rock colorings. We're going to do a lot of fine details because that's what I absolutely love doing. And again, a big shout out to those of you who have recommended the flashlight. I kind of forgot it existed, but now that it works, hopefully this is a much better experience for you guys as a whole. I'm going to get out of the way and let this kind of finish, but thank you again so much for hanging out with me. This is Havoc. Back over to regular Havoc once we get done with the time lapse. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the regular timeline. Well, it looks great, and I actually do enjoy it. It gives us room for expansion, but it doesn't actually actively do anything. You can see we sort of have a dead spot there where it's working, but it's almost as though, I don't know, maybe the waterfalls are really pleasing. Let's take a look live here for a second. So we have a dead space here. So I'm more than happy to put down some sand and kind of erase that whole area to make it clear. There we go. Let's go ahead. Actually, we'll keep those reeds there because I think it works well. Because we need entertainment-minded things. So it only makes sense to, you know, put in some, just some live waterfalls. And I mean, heck, if waterfalls are the answer, then we'd be putting waterfalls everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. I just want you to know that right now. Like, if that's all it takes is a handful of waterfalls to make an area nice and attractive, then we're definitely adding waterfalls every single place that we can. So that's not a bad spot right there. Trying to get as small of a space as we can. Yeah, I still think that looks good. Let's go ahead and get just a couple of more. I mean, just something underneath here. It says, hey, by the way, it's splashy. Brilliant. All right, cool. Now, in theory, that should... Okay, so it is. It's water. Okay, that's a very intriguing thing. I probably should not have discovered that because that makes me want to do stuff. Or it could actually be water itself. Is water itself another factor? So if we were to go... right there. Does that make anything more attractive? No, it doesn't. But if we were to place some big old waterfalls, I think it's hilarious that waterfalls are just an absolute guaranteed. I mean, I get it. Waterfalls are absolutely gorgeous, and they're one of my favorite just geological features. But the fact that that is actively contributing to the reason why we are having such a good little repertoire is just, it's humorous to me. It really is. Yeah, it's more specifically the bottom piece. That's wild. Okay, cool. But that's good to know. So, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know, there's going to be water flipping, flapping everywhere. And I do mean just everywhere. That's good to know, though, because it at least gives us an idea on what we need to add in order to make an area more attractive. And it is, as you can see, already attracting more people. We had no people here, and now it's at least doing something, which is a positive. Like, I only see that as a positive because it gives us a good reason to do certain things for certain spaces. And again, that just, I mean, I love water, so it's not a big deal for me if we have a bunch of water spaces. But overall, I can't remember what the, is it tab? No. I can't remember what the toggle UI button is. But regardless, as you can see here, like, eye level, oh, perfect. So look, he's already donating. Yes, give me your money, please. Yes, 200 more bucks. Any more? Sir, you didn't really donate that last time. I'm gonna need you to donate a little more. Yeah, Marvel, please. But this does a good job. This does a great job at blocking off what they can and can't see. And then, of course, it gives the staff the access that they need, and it brings in more people. We may beautify this place up a little more in the near future, but it's good to know we have a lot of good things there. Our park is increasing in terms of its guests. In terms of its financials, not really. And that's okay. Like, again, we knew this was going to happen. I talked about it earlier. And so we're not going to be too terribly concerned. What we do need to do is we do need to build our Cretaceous area. Now, one of the things, I've been doing a little bit of research, and one of the bigger features of the Cretaceous time period is the fact that the water levels, I think there was like almost 0 ice at the polar ice caps, North or South Pole. And as a result, water levels were significantly higher. You have a lot of really rapid plate collision, things of that nature. And as a result, there were a lot of very shallow seas, is basically what I'm looking at. Now, while I'm certainly not going to go and do a Dubai where I build, you know, like the world as it was, even though it's a really cool idea, building the world as it was isn't necessarily something I'm after. However, what I do think we have to have going into the Cretaceous time period is that we do need a lot of shallow sea areas. So I'm really glad that we actually have this as an inspiration. And in fact, I may revise the current exhibits to reflect this. But I love this style, and I kind of wish it was daytime, because this is exactly what we're going to do with our Cretaceous area. We're going to have a lot of very shallow seas, and we're going to have our exhibits sprinkled throughout it. So that means the Cretaceous will be a very, very large exhibit, or a very large portion of the entire thing, because, well, they kind of take up the most slots out of all the time periods anyway. So why wouldn't the Cretaceous be the absolute largest? Also, if I'm seeing this correctly, they are literally showing the dinosaurs wet as if it's raining because it's raining outside. If that is the case, and I do believe it is, that's a really cool feature. Kudos, very well done. I absolutely love it. All right, what do we have here? Yeah, we need you to refill that, please. Look at that pumpkin. That blood pumpkin has nothing in it. They're all good, though, in the neighborhood. All right, so with that in mind, I kind of want to build almost like a land bridge over here. Or not necessarily a land bridge, because that's kind of the wrong time period. But I do know that there is a predetermined asset that had the bridge. We did that in one of the last parts. And it worked out really, really well. Either that or it was a mod thing, and I'm going to need to go back and get it. But regardless, it was a really cool feature that I enjoyed, and it worked very, very well for the park. Now, whether I can recreate that or not, I simply don't know. HForHavoc would have to find it. But I think that's kind of the goal, kind of the aim over here, is to build what is essentially a bridge going over a shallow sea. And that shallow sea then parting ways in between exhibits to the point where maybe we even break down these walls and make them a little more invisible. But regardless, I love this. I love this feature, and I'm so glad we chose this park for that very reason, to give me a really good inspiration to lean into. But for now, I think HForHavoc is actually going to come into this part. I don't know, maybe I explained enough here to make it worthwhile. Guess we will have to see. Welcome back, everybody, to HForHavoc. This one's actually a pretty exciting thing. I am incredibly excited for how this turns out in the end. But long story short, like I said, we're going to build a bridge that goes over across a shallow sea. Now, one of the things that I was big about and I always advocate for in games like this is accessibility. Simply because, well, I want to make sure that everyone can enjoy the park. It makes sense, right? So instead of having stairs everywhere, we typically have ramps. That's just the way that it goes. Gentle slopes, sometimes they haven't been so gentle in the past. But regardless, accessibility is the name of the game, and I enjoy creating spaces that cater to that. So we're going to build a bridge that goes all the way across, and we're gonna have a really fun entrance to the Cretaceous exhibit. So it's not just going to be a bridge going over that shallow sea. It's going to be a big old grand entrance, because I can't do anything small. I just can't. So what we're going to see here is our standard kind of rock formation entrance to cover up the bluntness of the ramps. I'll say it in that way. And then we get to work on our sign. Now our sign is going to be very basic. It's just going to say the Cretaceous, but it's going to be huge in our typical fashion. And I do think it ends up looking pretty great. Now, what we're going to do here also, is we're going to see here in a little bit, is that I go back to our previous park where we started putting in different labels in the ground. And I know that was a big favorite, and I don't know why I hadn't started doing it until this episode. But you're gonna see me not only build a really cool kicking sign that I absolutely love, but you're also gonna see the signage start going back underneath into the ground, create a slight tripping hazard, but it's all well and good in the neighborhood. So anyways, that is the sign part of things. And then my voice is kind of feeling a little iffy, so I'm gonna wrap up what you're going to see and just simply be done at this point. So apologies for the little standard deviation in how things usually go, but I do have to kind of save my voice because I got a lot of talking to do today. But regardless of what you're gonna see after this is, once we get done with our awesome kick and sign, we're gonna build that shallow sea, and it's actually gonna be a lot more, a lot bigger of a shallow sea than anticipated before, which is perfectly fine. I don't see any issues with it, but we're gonna kind of rock the same space that you see in the section behind where the Cretaceous is going to be. So we're going to rock with sand on the bottom, and we're going to do some lighter sand on the rims and edges. It's going to look fantastic. But I want to leave you with that, something to look forward to as I start working on the floor right now, as you're seeing. And yeah, apologies for the kind of weird mix up here of me not being able to speak through the whole thing, but sometimes it's just the way that it is. Thank you again for your support, by the way, and I hope you like these time lapses. Be sure to let me know in the comment section if you do, or if I'm doing too many of them, or if they're too long. Let me know. Thank you again for your support. We'll see regular Havoc in just a second. Alright everybody, welcome back to the original chill timeline. Hope you enjoyed that time lapse. There was a lot that went on in there, and I will admit it was quite a bit, but I still think it turns out great. So for one, we're starting to bring back this. I miss having these little things throughout the park. So I may do food court 1 or like main food court, second food court, things of that nature, which would be pretty cool. Maybe we'd label stuff about what exhibits these are, etc., etc. But I still love the idea of being able to walk up and see the direction. Hey, you're heading towards the Cretaceous. And I did spell that right, correct? I do believe I spelled that right. But yeah, just look at that. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it works really well. We have a nice, awesome transition. Again, kind of emphasizing that shallow sea area. Maybe it'd be awesome eventually to be able to have fish or life inside of the water. That would be super duper cool. But for now, the bridge will have to be the start. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're going to end this today. I think we did a pretty solid job. We accomplished a couple of very big tasks. One of them, of course, being a emphasis into the food court area, or not the food court, but rather the food creation area, and then of course our foray into the Cretaceous. I do think we will still end up needing to take out some dough, and that's okay. We actually almost made a profit this month right here. Didn't quite so much here. Maybe we're getting to the point where we're starting to get a lot more profit, and we could start, you know, still think we're gonna need a loan. But we'll see where that goes. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, you know how to support the channel by giving it a like, subscribing, and of course, leaving your comments in the comment section about the favorite things you liked or the things you'd like to see improved. Anyways, again, this will be a once a week for a little while until maybe things clear up or other situations come up. And who knows, you may see a random video on a weekend. You just don't know. So make sure you're subscribed so you're always up to date. Anyways, this is Havoc. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.